I would like now to invite your esteemed colleagues to join you on the stage. You are being joined today by Her Excellency Baiba Braže, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Latvia. By His Excellency Shri Kumaran, who is the Special Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of India, who will join us by online. Her Excellency Adriana Mira, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of El Salvador. His Excellency Omran Sharaf, the Assistant Foreign Minister of Advanced Science and Technology in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the United Arab Emirates. And His Excellency Andrzej Szeptycki, Under Secretary of State at the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of Poland. Federal Councillor Cassis, can I start with you? So we live in this age of scientific and technological acceleration. And so I would like to start by asking you, why is it important that world leaders, and you as a leader, and all your colleagues around the world, find time and the capacity and the ability to focus on that besides their daily activities?
Because it's important to prepare the future and not to run after the future. I know, I don't want to be naive, I know that humanity normally make rules that follows technologies. But when we look back in the last 20 years, or 30 years now, we experience here in Geneva, invented by the CERN where we are, the World Wide Web, but nobody realized that out of this invention, the World Wide Web could be born, could exist. This was the putting it into practice and into commercial products was up to the US and the Silicon Valley. And this generates what we call today as the Silicon Valleys. And this generates also all the problems we have with the huge tech concerns, the tech industries today, that are more important than most multilateral agencies or states. And so you can imagine if we could have thought about that 30 years ago, before running after everything, maybe, I guess, the world could have solved some problems like environmental problems and not having other problems. And think about the drones technology. The drones technology is another example. We invented, even in Switzerland, we have a huge industries and research on drone technologies in our universities. And suddenly we realized, I was as a politician in the parliament at the time, well, we have a problem to lose. What are these new machines? What are they? Chance and the challenges they're bringing us. And so we were running after the new technology in order to solve the problem it exists. So we have to maximize the positive impact and minimize the negative impact. In order to do that, without losing time and energy and some catastrophic also consequences of this technology, we have to anticipate, which is not easy, because we are really in the daily business, we are totally absorbed what's going on every day. And to take time to think about the future and to think about our tasks in the good governance of the future is central in order, I guess, to prepare for a better world.
Thank you very much. Minister Braže, 3 weeks ago, the international community wrapped up at the United Nations Summit of the Future in New York. And with that in mind, how can science support the attainment of the global goals that are described therein and beyond?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me. And we had already a good discussion with Ignazio and visited the part of the third anticipation of the future part, which will be presented in Osaka next year at the Expo. I think the issue is overcoming the bubbles that we live in. Very often politicians, scientists, tech companies, and so on and so forth, we each live in our bubbles, and we are very content with our daily schedules and anticipating the next visits, the next meetings, and so on and so forth. So actual leadership in bringing communities together, and I mean communities within our responsibility within the countries, but also across the board, such as here today. And why? Because indeed we can have scientific advancement in Western Europe, in the US, in Arab countries, especially in Emirates, in India, in Latin America, and so on and so forth. But to make sure that we actually know who is doing what, that we have the best experience, the best knowledge, the best exchange, we need consciously to bring people together. And that is the main role of the global goals for me, that actually uniting the best minds and making sure that there is that leadership of science-drawn evidence. Making sure that not only we have those achievements, but we have the mindsets in place to take on and integrate those achievements into something that is beneficial for the communities. Because remember, vaccines don't save lives. Vaccination does. So if we have the best scientists in the world discovering the best and the most incredible things in anticipating the future, if we don't get the community together in the right way, under the right leadership, under the governance that is needed, those achievements might not bring the benefits that we all expect. So what you mentioned, Ignazio, with regard to the tech companies, I think is part of the same problem. I fully agree. I think actually recreating that part of tissue of societal benefits among the continents, among the communities, is something where politicians, scientists, communities, where the leadership matters and where the global goals can be achieved or gradually achieved. So that would be, I think, my first point. And for that, we need trust. We need trust not only in data, we need trust among the countries, among the governance structures, we need investment. There's all types of practical issues that we as politicians, I think, need to change the way we think, but also the scientists need to change the ways they see the world working.
Thank you very much. Your last point about trust leads me to the next question I would like to address to Undersecretary Szeptycki. In an era of misinformation, disinformation, which is of course exacerbated by social media and AI technology, what do you believe are the appropriate strategies to make sure that government implement something, a policy that enhances science literacy and empowers people to tell credible sources from others?
D'abord, je voudrais remercier les autorités suisses et les autorités de Genève pour nous avoir réunis ici. And now coming to your question, this is indeed a challenge. Because basically now we are having science and technological developments which are often being used to undermine trust in science. This is a question of vaccinations, disinformation on the topic, but this is also a question of social media. Now young people, if they look for any answer, I mean, how to fix the computer, okay? They will look for a short movie on YouTube. Any solutions. So to cope with that, with this role of social media, growing role of AI, disinformation, also populist politicians who don't care completely about science. They want to undermine it, explaining to people, we know what the real truth is. Don't trust, those bold, scientists who live in a kind of different world. So we need to make science accessible, attractive, understandable, and trustworthy. First, we need scientists to go to talk or to write to, sorry to put it like that, to ordinary people. Think about Stephen Hawking, who published his Brief History of Time, which was issued, if I'm not mistaken, in 25 million copies. And ordinary people were reading it, trying to understand what the black holes are. I mean, how does it work? You can create, that's what we did in Poland some 20 years ago, science museums, where in an attractive form you can present to your population different kind of experiments, explaining electricity, neurology, whatever. We have what we call the Copernicus Science Center, which since being created was visited by, well, more than a dozen of millions of people from all around Poland. And now we are creating in smaller cities around Poland, smaller kind of clones of this big museum to make these experiments accessible not only to people from Warsaw or tourists coming to visit us, please do, but also to kids from, local, regional centers. Long life learning. It's not only about increasing your professional skills. What we are having in several Polish universities is what we call open university. It used to be called University of Third Age, but it's a little bit, ageism. So we've devised another formula. And if you want to study anything, just after leaving your work, you have a need to understand better 16th century Spanish poesy. You can go once a week to the University of Warsaw, you pay, whatever, 100 euros per term, and you increase your knowledge about any topic which is of interest for you, not only related to your work. So these are positive actions, but of course you need also more direct, I would say, negative actions to counter the threats I have mentioned. There is nothing wrong about AI, but we need to know, in a way, who is behind. If we are using it in our everyday life. I mean, kids, scientists, we even have now in Poland an MP who is writing, official questions from the parliament to our ministry using AI. 100 of, inquiries because just, AI produces, So we need to know who is behind. We need to make it trustworthy, and we need to be sovereign about this AI to get a good product. Same about disinformation. We need technical tools. We are working on that, thanks to AI also. We need legal framework to fight disinformation. But especially in the field of science, there is a more fundamental question. Basically, academic freedom is a major value for us. So basically, we don't want to control scholars. But at the same time, what happens if you got a scholar who even outside of his articles, but if he, on YouTube, if he starts to say absurdities about vaccination, about Russia being a friendly country, I've got colleagues like that being a political scientist, so I know what I'm talking about. And now, once again, the question is what to do with such people, okay? And last but not least, probably social media. Once again, that's a wonderful tool, but especially for the younger generations. We've been talking about that yesterday in the evening. When you look, being a teenager, for any possible answer on social media, you completely get lost. You don't see any other alternatives. I mean, books, even Wikipedia, no, just social media. So this is also something we should try, especially at school probably, to some limit.
Thank you very much. I think in what you're saying, bringing and empowering people to understand the science and to distinguish the credible one, the trustworthy one from the other one, is a form of creating this community, bringing people together around science. That was also advocated on this panel. And that goes into a question I would like to address to Adriana Mira, the Vice Minister of El Salvador. El Salvador is investing heavily in technological infrastructure to create development opportunities, also through regional and international cooperation. And so my question is, what have you learned from that experience about the importance of the public-private partnerships, precisely bringing the different communities together in to make science and innovation the basis of progress?
Yes. Well, thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be representing El Salvador, and also, I will say, my region, Central America. And it is important to mention that probably for the countries that are in Europe and some others, this is not a new topic. It has been discussed for so many years, but for countries in Latin America, it is still new. And we as a government understood that we need to make a huge step on that. I don't want to say that anything has been done before, but we didn't have a proper plan to work together between the government, the academy, and the private sector, which is very, very important, because as a government, we are not going to be able to achieve the goals that we are looking forward to achieve by ourselves. So we made this plan. First of all, we changed all the organizations, the governance in terms of technology and innovation. We created 5 years ago a Secretary of Innovation. Again, probably this is usual for you, but in El Salvador, and I will say in Central America, this is very innovative. This innovation, Secretary of Innovation created also an agenda that goes from 2020 to 2030 in terms of modernizing the government, modernizing all the processes, but also to bring the technology to the people, to connect the people, and to have a better connectivity in the country. Also, it is important to mention that a few weeks ago, we also created a Secretary of Cybersecurity, which is very, very important, and it is a new topic for the Latin American region. And I think that this topic, it is not only new for Latin America, this is also new for the other regions in the world, especially taking in consideration that we have, as you mentioned, the artificial intelligence. Which is for sure an opportunity, but also it is a challenge if we are not able as countries to see how we can organize. And also, I don't want to say control, but it is important to put the rules on that, because you can have this big advance with the artificial intelligence, but also they can commit a lot of crimes through that. And because of that, we also believe that we needed to create the opportunities for national and international investment in El Salvador in terms of technology and innovation. And we created a law a year ago, I would say, I think it is, yes, about a year ago, that could give more opportunities to international companies and to national companies to innovation and technology and to invest in those areas. And after that, we congratulated that we are receiving a biggest investment coming to the country directly from Google, specialized in Google Cloud, and it has the hub for the Central America region. We are looking forward to have more options to the companies, and if someone here is interested to see El Salvador as a hub in technology, not only for the Central America region, but also to have this nearshoring agenda, we are totally open to do that. It is important to mention that we believe that, again, we are not going to be able to do this by ourselves as a government. We need to work together with the civil society, we need to work together with the private investment and with the academy. It is not going to be only Google the one that is going to improve the technology in El Salvador. We will need also to create opportunities with the academy to make an association to create opportunities for the young people in the country. And as you may know, El Salvador was before the most dangerous in the country around the world back in 2015. And now we are proud to say that we are the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. But we know that this piece of culture of peace, is not going to be able to last if we don't create opportunities for the childhood and for the young people. And we believe that one of the key industries that we need to invest on is technology and innovation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is certainly something India has done also. And I would like now to turn to Special Secretary Kumaran, who is joining us from New Delhi this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, sir. And my question would be this. I mean, India is the home of over 1 billion of citizens, and you have made tremendous progress in recent years to position India at the forefront of scientific and technological development for all. And my question is, what lessons can you share from this game-changing transformation and what it means to be a science and technology leader, both regionally and internationally?
Thank you, State Secretary Faisal, Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. It's indeed a pleasure for me to represent India on this distinguished panel. In order to give you a sense of the extent of social mobility that the democratization of education and, of course, science education as a part of this has been able to achieve in India, I'd like to start with a personal example. I come from a very modest background in a tier 2 city, as we call it, a second level city in the south of India. My parents did not go to college. I was the first in my family to enter university and graduate. I was also the first engineer and civil servant in my family. But I had the good fortune to be trained in one of the finest engineering institutes in India, the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Madras, and to subsequently join the Indian Foreign Service as a diplomat to represent India abroad. It's just a simple example of the kind of social mobility that education can accord people from remote areas in India, from smaller towns, etc. This is not to say that we have solved all our problems. We still have a lot of work to do, but such stories are becoming more and more frequent, and you hear more about such stories increasingly these days. Also, in recent years, the trend has been that youngsters from smaller towns are doing exceedingly well, be it in professional careers or in sports. The explanation seems to be that they are the ones that have the hunger to put in the hard work required. India also perhaps has the largest affirmative action program for disadvantaged sections of the population, both for educational institutions and government job openings. Now, why has all this been possible? If you analyze this, it's clear that it has been enabled by the huge availability of open access materials or open source materials, the low cost of textbooks, particularly paperback editions that are printed in India, the spread of internet, mobile telephone and broadband connectivity, and the increasing use of digital tools, educational technology, and mobile learning platforms. All this has hugely improved the availability of quality content for youngsters in backward areas. In fact, the average consumption of mobile data per user in India is among the highest in the world. The availability of good content in Hindi and in regional languages has also helped promote this trend of democratization of education, including science education. In addition, many local NGOs have also supported children from disadvantaged backgrounds by setting up community learning centers to prepare them for the highly competitive exams, entrance exams. In fact, the vast expansion of IT education in India from the late 1990s was based on the large number of job opportunities that were available both in India and abroad, driving the push for engineering education in India. The IITs and IIMs have also benefited from the exceptional success stories of their alumni abroad. In fact, the US, Europe, Singapore, and Dubai have large numbers of alumni from premier institutes in India. It is estimated that 60 of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are currently of Indian origin. In addition, the government also focuses on gender inclusivity and empowering women for STEM education through special scholarships, mentorship, and support for girls interested in STEM education, and also allocating supernumerary seats for girls at premier engineering schools such as the IITs, etc. Initiatives like the Women Scientist Scheme by the Department of Science and Technology aim to empower women in research, provide them in funding and opportunities to pursue careers in science. This is broadly an example of the kind of opportunities available for various sections of the population. Let me also try and say a few words on why India has been able to focus so much on science and technology. The overall impetus for this is because India has always looked at multidimensional progress as a goal, and therefore it started investing in science and technology very early in the years after independence. We started establishing scientific institutions and building a technological base by setting up the Indian Institutes of Technology, the Indian Institutes of Management, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Indian Council for Agricultural Research, etc. These were all founded to promote higher education and research in key areas of interest. In fact, there was even a debate some years earlier, and some criticism that India was expending or committing expenditure to higher education institutions at a time when literacy levels were low, and that it should instead focus on primary education. But the overall approach of the government has always been to try and balance both ends of the education spectrum. The Indian Space Research Organization was established as far back as 1969. India's first satellite, Aryabhatta, was launched in 1975. Since then, we've launched many satellites, including for remote sensing and telecommunication purposes. We've also had 2 lunar missions. The digital revolution and the IT boom in the 1990s again gave rise to a number of Indian IT multinationals. The enabling policies of the government of India also helped attract significant levels of FDI into the IT sector. The new education policy of India aims to try and bring the government expenditure on education, which is currently in the range of about 4.6% to 6%. We are also increasing the R&D expenditure, currently at about 0.7% of GDP, to bring it closer to 2.5%. We are also bringing a number of new policies into play by empowering our educational institutions to establish research and teaching collaborations, and also faculty and student exchanges with various foreign education institutions. Indian institutions are being allowed to set up campuses abroad. Foreign universities are now being allowed to set up campuses at Gift City in Gujarat. We've also had a number of new areas coming into play where we are focusing policy. The government has always run several programs such as science fairs, exhibitions, mass media outreach to television and radio. We also have a national digital library. The Indian Science Congress finds various ways to bring scientists and researchers closer to public and to help them learn about various science developments through interactive sessions. India also focuses on frugal innovation and cost-effective and resource-efficient and sustainable solutions to various social problems and economic problems. In recent years, we have brought on a number of policies. Digital India was launched in 2015 to improve digital infrastructure, connectivity, and e-governance. Startup India, launched in 2016, led to a thriving entrepreneurial system with over 128,000 startups and more than 110 unicorns. In fact, the ease of doing business reforms in recent years have led a number of multinationals to set up R&D centers and global capability centers in India. India is also focusing on a national AI strategy. We also have a national quantum computing and advanced materials mission, the national supercomputing mission. We have a mission for clean energy and climate technology, a national solar mission, and so on.
Yep.
Science and technology diplomacy is also picking up in India, evident from the fact that the Ministry of External Affairs now has a division called NEST division, New Emerging and Strategic Technologies division. We have a number of institutional mechanisms for cooperation in science and technology with various countries, including dialogues with the US under the ISET, with the European Union under the Trade and Technology Council, and also similar arrangements with other countries such as Japan.
Dear colleague,
focuses,
can I ask you to draw to a close with your introductory remarks,
just
so
a
that
couple
we
of
can have
sentences more, please.
further discussion?
I just wanted to conclude with a couple of lines on how we focus on digital public infrastructure to drive inclusive growth. This has empowered millions through financial inclusion and has helped bring millions of people from the unorganized sector into the formal economy. The integration of artificial intelligence into DPI platforms is expected to help us further target our benefits better and to further scale up this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And can I now turn to His Excellency Omran Sharaf. Minister, the UAE is not only a mainstay of the Geneva political talks on science diplomacy. The audience knows there is 25-5-5, as we have heard from Enrico Letta in earlier presentations, but there is also 5-4-3, 5 years GESDA, 4 summits, and 3 political talks on the political level. And every time the UAE was there present on this panel. So the UAE is a great example of how futures thinking and trust in science can support the alignment of strategic investments and initiatives from different sectors in order to advance the country's development and sustainability goals. And do you think this is a path that can be replicated elsewhere in the world? And if so, how?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's such an honor to be here. Personally, this is the 3rd time I actually attend GESDA, and every year I have to say, the level of the discussions, the engagements just keeps moving forward and bringing more value to the discussions. Regarding your questions, can we replicate this model in other countries? Yes, I think so. But the recipe would be probably different. The UAE as a nation, as a hub that works with East and West, as a region that as a country that has quite ambitious vision for the future, when it comes to the future of our economy, when it comes to addressing our national needs, whether it's in food security, water security, energy security, or from the social point of view, as in having a better quality of life for our citizens and the residents who live in the UAE. The government realized early on that science and tech is crucial for that. If we want to be an innovative and creative and a competitive knowledge-based economy, we need to have a very well-established science and technology sector. But then we realized that we cannot do that on our own. Our approach and philosophy is very different. Instead of looking at it as a competition, we looked at it as a collaboration. So instead of working or starting from scratch, we worked with others, we learned from others, we integrated our science and technology community, our scientists and our engineers, with other countries' scientists and engineers, and built programs together. An excellent example is our space program, our nuclear program, in which we actually didn't start from scratch. The UAE was able to reach Mars in less than 50 years because we worked with others. Our space program is only 17 years old, and we reached Mars. Why? Because we had 450 people who worked on that mission, 200 Emiratis, 150 from our knowledge transfer partners in the universities, different universities in the US, and 100 subcontractors from around the world who worked all together to build our mission to Mars, which was kind of the driver of our space program. And that mission was delivered in 6 years, compared to other countries, which takes 10 to 12 years, and for $200 million, which is very low. Why? Because we worked with others. Now, the thing is we have to take into account, and I really like to thank the Swiss government for putting science and tech at the core of the political discussions. During the Cold War era, the discussions at an international level, from a diplomacy point of view, was very political. After the Cold War, it was politics plus economy when it came to international venues and diplomatic discussions. Today, it's politics plus economy plus science and tech. And emerging technology will play a vital role in defining the relationships between the countries and regions. The politicization that's happening today globally will make it more difficult for different nations, especially countries that are similar to the UAE, which are hubs that work with East and West. But those challenges turn usually into opportunities. So this is why this model could be replicated and should be replicated in other countries to help and facilitate those discussions and bring the different views closer to each other. When you have countries with different capacities and capabilities in science and tech, the way they would approach it will be very different. The more capacity and capability we have, the easier for us to have a common language, the easier for us to address new emerging technologies such as AI, quantum, and anything else that will be coming in the future from standard guidelines, norms, ethics point of view. So to avoid having that polarization being reflected in our standards, in our codes of ethics, we have different nations having different views. It's critical that we also build capacity in other countries to be on the same level. I don't want to take a lot of your time, and I think we're running out of time, so I'd like to...
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like to quickly do a final round and pose a question and ask the ministers to answer in a sentence. And that will be their final...
Good luck.
The final request they asked to us. And when I imagine that, I came up with the following question. From understanding our place in the cosmos to eradicating fatal diseases, scientific progress is one of humankind's greatest achievements. How can leaders ensure that this continues by creating an enabling environment for societies to thrive based on what we have heard today? But now I realize that's a rather lofty formulation. So I guess my question is, we all know we have to do this. We have to equip the leaders with the tools to anticipate technological and scientific breakthroughs so as to fructify their policy making and policy decisions. We know we have to do this, but how are we going to do it? Or if I look at you as political leaders and high-level political operatives, what is it exactly you need in order to do that? What is the request you address to an organism such as GESDA? And I would like to start from the far end with Andrzej, and then Federal Councillor Cassis will have le mot de la fin. Andrzej, please.
I think the key point is to explain to political leaders the importance of science. What you've mentioned, well, our place in the space, this sounds pretty abstract. Okay, when we had COVID, nobody was discussing, at least in most of the countries, we need to spend more money on looking for vaccination because this was something very concrete, very, useful, putting it diplomatically. Now, in Poland, we have similar discussions, and, well, the basic answer is, it's a long sentence, but one single.
A very long sentence.
Yeah, in Poland, we are having currently, on the new budget for 2025, such discussions, well, couldn't we spend more on science? And, well, the answer is, unfortunately, for the moment, we need to spend more on defense. So what people are saying, okay, so maybe we should combine the two. Maybe we should develop scientific programs related to the defense sector so that both sides of the coins are happy, okay? Research and current needs. This is, I think, the key answer.
Thank you very much. Explain to leaders the importance of science. Minister Sharaf.
All right, so I'd just like to remind you all of COVID-19. It's an excellent example how the world got together to address a serious challenge. When it first came up, they told us we'll need 18 months to at least 24 months to address that challenge and come up with a vaccine. But because the world worked together, scientists from around the world worked together, we delivered a vaccine in 9 months. It tells you a lot. So the tools that we should provide policymakers is to have such kind of discussions that facilitate collaboration, brings trust, confidence, and responsible behavior into these discussions and into the systems that we have in these collaborations in venues like the Security Council. So what Switzerland has done by bringing this topic into the Security Council, it's something, for example, a tool, a way to make the policymakers take the science and tech more into account when they design their policies.
Thank you. Collaboration. Minister Mira.
Thank you. Well, I will say that we need to ask to the biggest countries not to use the connectivity, technology, and science as a weapon, geopolitically talking. What we can use not as a weapon but as a tool is the scientific diplomacy. And sometimes, and I'm a diplomat, I'm going to say this very respectfully, but sometimes diplomacy, it is a high-level talk of an ideal of what we need to do in terms to improve technology, but it doesn't arrive to specific actions. So I will say that we can use this diplomacy as a tool of make this more accessible to the developing countries. Thank you.
No weaponization, no gaps, get traction for the benefit of all.
Exactly.
Special Secretary Kumaran.
Well, thank you very much. I think that, from the Indian perspective, my suggestion would be to try and make science and technology more useful to solve practical problems of the common people, be it in the areas of healthcare. We had several speakers talk about COVID-related problems. We have other basic problems like vaccinations for other prevalent diseases. In a tropical country like India, we have agriculture. We use various kinds of technologies to produce high-yielding varieties, bringing drones into agriculture, jobs, all kinds of new technologies enable people to get more jobs. Technology and science can improve quality of life, connectivity, energy, efficient citizen services through digital public infrastructure, etc. Overall, I think our approach would be to try and create a greater sense of what is global commons and to try and open source as many technologies as possible so that people across countries can derive benefits from these new technological developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So focus on concrete problems and provide practical solutions. Minister Braže.
I think communication is very important. The storytelling from the scientific community to the people, to the governments, to actually show the successes, to show the sort of more advanced return to the society, to the overall, whether through commercialization or through the pride of achieving something special is very important. I've been a great fan of Latvian quantum community, and we do have a proper excellence in quantum. But it was so narrowly sort of organized that it was difficult within the government to actually get to know what they are doing, both from the critical infrastructure side, the private sectors, the academic sector, and so on and so forth. So what we did, we inspired one of the scientists who was a better storyteller to come together with a very popular musician on a podcast and start telling the stories. And they have become so popular that they travel around the country to do stand-up, sort of, if not comedy, then, you know, storytelling. And that really has sort of changed the perception of what science can do or what science is, that you can actually make it attractive, that it's not some narrow, exclusive community which just asks for more money and more everything, and, you know, what do we get out of it then in the government, in the cabinet meetings? So I think that part from both sides, from the government, not only understanding what is happening in your scientific community, how you can use evidence-based policy making in very practical ways, but actually that you can be proud of what has been achieved is important. And the second is the, I don't want to say workforce, because in science that doesn't sound very attractive, but actually the sort of whole society approach. It's not only about primary education or university education, but it's women in science. I think in many countries, not only throughout the education, but throughout the universities and later staying in science and being successful, women have been left out. For us, it's been more than half of women in the whole scientific community that actually has made that perception that science is for everyone, and also brought it back into the families, that you can be a scientist and be successful and throughout your life. So I think there are two elements. And the third one is, as I said from what I started, the leadership, which is being brave to invest in the future, because our investment in 5G, 6G currently is the one that is paying the return why we can be so successful, whether in quantum or others. So that is something which will change what we discussed, whether that's neuroscience or implants. Without 6G, without the sensors, without the connection, I just can't see it happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Communication, storytelling, inclusiveness, invest in the future. And finally, Federal Councillor.
And enablement, as you said yourself, absolutely.
Thank you. Monsieur Cassis.
Well, I just want to say scientific language is evidence-based. Political language is opinion-based. And these are two different words, two different bubbles. And GESDA creates projects that allow a cross-pollination between the first and the second bubble. And this won't be easy. It follows different logics. It won't be quick, but this is necessary in order to face the challenges that this world is facing too with this amount of population we have today.
Thank you very much. Cross-pollination.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much, Ministers, for your very valuable input in terms of guidance and protection of the work of GESDA. I must confess, I feel encouraged because all the elements we have heard now in the statements, but also in the concluding remarks, echo what we are trying to achieve within GESDA. So you have given us today the reassurance that we are most probably on the right track. And this encourages us to forcefully march forward, make progress, and report to you at next year's political talks about our progress. And with that, and with our thanks to the Minister, present and online, I would like to conclude that ministerial segment 2024. Merci beaucoup.